So, this is possibly the best aircraft engine. Uh, Donut released a video today showcasing the aircraft engine with 650 horsepower, is 27 liters. I was like, it's a really cool little video. But the reason why it's like, why would you want an aircraft engine? Because they built them specifically to go like vertical, do loop-de-loops, have all these cool like little moments. You can like basically just slam it off to the side and it'll keep oiling itself and it'll still keep pushing power, right? It's like that's why they're great, even though they're heavy. Yeah, but these are also older engines, so you have to remember that. But there's the other part where it's like possibly the best aircraft engine was never really actually made for aircrafts, and in fact, I think it wasn't really ever made much at all. But it was an opposed piston delta, and so like Donut actually did a video about it back in the day, and that's kind of how that triggered. But it's like it's one of the best engines for an opposed piston ever designed. The only issue was the intake and exhaust, alongside of having like 3 crankshafts and 6, was it, yeah, 2, 3, so 6 pistons per each, for 3 cylinders, and so your wear rates are a bigger deal on the piston and everything, but the torque was very insane, like really high, and back then that's what they were able to get out of it versus what we have now. And so I'm like, oh, it's definitely possible to turn that, especially for its reliability. Like, it was made in such a way that it basically didn't have the, failures of other engines of the day. So, like, that helped out a lot, you know? It's very reliable. And I love opposed pistons. Like, for what it's worth, opposed pistons are really, really fun to think about. I have a few designs on my own channel already that are opposed pistons, 3 combustion chamber designs. You know what I mean? And I love them, but at the same time, it's like for them to manufacture this, it was the center area of the delta that was difficult for them to deal with, because it's like you want to put your exhaust there, right? But then you can't really put your exhaust there because it gets too hot, and there's this thing called a crankshaft to, your flywheel, torque converter, clutch, any of that you need to drive something with, right? And so when you think about like a piston engine, it's kind of a weird one, because it's like this is a not direct to continual rotation. So they went to a turbine like turboprops pretty quickly, because you could always just spin it faster and feed it more fuel to a degree, right? And so, like, for a piston-driven, engine design, the opposed piston delta was really powerful. It would have been an amazing aircraft engine because they could have lightened it easily. Excuse me. With the aluminum they had back in the day, and direct injection, which they already had degrees of direct injection and spark. And so it would have been, unfortunately, a little similar to a flat 8, where the intake and exhaust are fairly close to each other. But considering that they would have been able to run like a turbo or supercharger setup pretty easily, and how high altitude they would have been running with the thing, it probably wouldn't have been a bigger deal, or big enough deal really, that would have really hurt its performance as much like a flat 8. It's just one of those things where it's like it would have been an amazing engine. I still like the engine. It's still an amazing engine. Uh, the main issue is like there's 3 crankshafts, and you have to combine all 3 of those, and there's loss there. Yeah, there's going to be a loss there. that makes it a little bit rough, right? But most people tend to not have a problem with that, and back then it's the manufacturing, like casting ability of the people, and they would have been able to do it, but it's, you know, cost and maintenance and repair and all of that they would have had to factor in. For me, it's just like pure performance wise, it would have been the easiest to oil because that center part is now just like a big oil, you know, reservoir. It's like a huge oil reservoir. I can stick off to one side all the intake area, you know, and then I have all the exhaust over somewhere else as it expands, you know, and that allows for a decent degree of separation as it goes through. And a turbine is going to help out just fine with a basic compressor, you know, of any kind. Like I love super turbos. Like they're all throughout my design, just because I hate burning more fuel to suddenly spill up a turbo, um, and having it come out the exhaust. Like, and don't get me wrong, it sounds cool. It's a cool bark and you know what I mean. But I just don't really like it. I don't. It like damages your turbo if you do it incorrectly. You have to retard your timing for your exhaust, which means you have to, like, you know, delay it so that way it stays open for longer, and then you have to burn more fuel. You have to run lean. So you're kind of sacrificing power to your engine to basically make power to your turbo. And I'm like, what's the difference between that and a supercharger? I'm sacrificing power to my engine, but at least I got more torque on this RPM area. You know what I mean? That's all it is. It's like, eh, I don't see it. Especially when like that supercharger gives me more power to my engine that I'll feel at that moment, and then the turbo will kick up and kick in. You know, and that's fine. Like that's totally manageable for me. Versus like having to delay timings and all of this other stuff. I just don't like it. But of course, it weighs more. You know, that's the real drawback for most people. But it's like, well, the compressor is the compressor. I don't need my turbine to be anything other than the turbine. A shaft is a shaft. A disconnecting, you know, little setup with some basic gearing for the supercharger, you know, where it's like, all right, so I'm gonna have it start off at a higher gear, go immediately to a lower, and it'll slowly go up to a higher gear, and then like it'll just disconnect at the RPM that you select for it, and then it'll just dump whatever extra from the turbo for its turbine directly into your crankshaft is easy enough. And it's like, so it weighs a little more. You're already going to put a turbo on it, and an intercooler, and all the rest of this. Like, I can make a comparably larger compressor, you know, turbo setup work doing that. That is a few pounds heavier, which will mean something, don't get me wrong, but for the average person, isn't gonna mean much. You know what I mean? Like, it'll be insanely good. And I don't have to worry about sacrificing more fuel or changing any of these fuel map timings or any of them. You know what I mean? I just can just bolt it on and it'll go. Right? But every time this is getting off topic, that subject, the super turbo stuff. So getting back on topic to the aircraft engines, I always think about them like, with their 27 liters, what could I run with today's fuel and technology? What do I have that I can shove into this for air and fuel? Timings and spark and exhaust. A little of this, a little of that, and, you know, 27 liters what they were showing. I'm like, I could. easily see 27 liters producing way more than 650 horsepower. You know what I mean? Like 6 liters will get you, over 600 horsepower, right? That's what they were looking at. And so I was like, get my dual overhead cams over here. Get my port injection. Get a little compressor, a little turbine, dual action turbine here. Like, what can I push into this? What's your gasket about? Not multi-layer steel? We're gonna go with a multi-layer steel here. And you know me, I'm that weirdo that goes, let's see how much fuel it can suck down. See these things? These are 4 injectors, big boys. You got 27 liters to play with. Let's have fun. Then the other part of me also goes, right, yeah, no, they probably don't need 4. They can't balance it to that RPM. I would be able to use 4. I could probably get away with 2 bigger injectors, Anyways, this is like 6 liters, there's 24, should be 4 times, so 650 times 4. And then you have another 3 liters, so it's like 300 horsepower on top of that. Basic calculator math here, so 650 times 4 plus 325, so just under 3,000 horsepower. I don't think that crank's going to survive that. I doubt it, yeah. Good old 27 liters of, oh lordy low! I'm gonna die! Anyways, alright, bye.